All right, finishing up with angle theorems. Where do we start here? So let's start with a straight line. Straight line has 180 degrees. All right, so if someone says make a 180, if your parents say just make a 180 and walk out of here, means to turn around and go in the opposite direction. If we are to go a full rotation, so a circle, that would mean we'd have 360 degrees. So straight line has 180, and a full circle or rotation is 360. Okay, I'm not too worried about you remembering the names of these theorems. You'll get to practice and see them in the grade 9 course a little bit later on. So let's start with the Oat theorem. That's opposite angle theorem. We have two intersecting lines, angle A, angle B, C, and D. And the opposite angle theorem says that the opposite angles are equal. So that means that A and B would be equal, C and D would be equal. So if they're opposite to each other when two lines intersect, they will be equal to each other. All right. If we have, and a lot of times I just worry about you knowing the pattern. So that creates an X pattern. If we have two parallel lines, so those arrows mean that they're parallel, and we have a line that intersects, and I have the two angles on the inside here. What it does, I call it the Z pattern. And the Z pattern's right here. All right. And it's like any person. It has, basically our Z has two armpits. An armpit here and an armpit there. Your armpits always smell the same. So angle A equals angle B. So armpits smell the same. Angle A equals angle B. Now, you got to be careful because you can have an ugly looking Z. I like to call it the ugly looking Z. It looks like this. It's been stretched, flipped around, turned backwards. Now, the armpits of the Z are here and here. So it's also true that angle C equals angle D. So that's our, what I call the Z pattern. All right. And like I said, you're going to see this again in the course. A lot more detail, and it takes it a little bit further, but I'm just going over the basics here. Two parallel lines, intersecting line, and we're going to look at angle A and angle B here. All right. So this is what I call the F pattern. I'll use my highlighter again to show you where the F comes from. So here's the F. It's a fancy F because it's on an angle. And the same thing, same rule applies. The F technically has two armpits. Your armpits always smell the same, so A is equal to B. The tricky part with this one is that this can be written, or the F can be drawn in a whole bunch of different directions. So we could have C and D, and you can draw the F upside down so that the angles C and D are the same. And I could continue on. I could have an F going the opposite direction. All right, you maybe don't want to do that. And could be going down like this. So I don't bother putting them all in because it gets looking pretty sloppy and messy. So we'll leave it at that. So there is your F pattern. So the armpits of the F also are the same value. I left space here. Again, two parallel lines. I call this one a C pattern. Angle A and angle B. This is where my C comes from. If you remember the names of them, good job. I'm not too worried. Like I said, I'm more worried about you finding the angle. But A plus B is equal to 180 degrees. Why is that? Well, this is the reasoning behind it. If I was to create a rectangle, or parallelogram, I guess in this case, how many degrees are in a parallelogram? I'm sure everyone's yelling, 360, Mr. Agar, 360, pick me, but you realize I can't see you, right? So in a parallelogram, actually, yeah, let's go with a Quadrilateral is the technical term. Four-sided shape. Quadrilateral. Okay, so inside a quadrilateral, and that's any four-sided shape, doesn't have to be parallelogram. A, B, C, and D. If you add those sides together, any four-sided shape will add up to 360 degrees. So really up here with that C pattern, we're just dealing with half a parallelogram, so to speak. So that means that instead of 360, we only have 180 degrees. And that should be enough to get you through the final package. Like I said, it's just a brief overview. We do the angles in the final unit. We spend a lot more time because they get a little bit more complicated. So you get a bit more of an in-depth. But this is really all I want you to know at this point in time. So if you're comfortable with this, if you can get through the homework package, then you're all set to go with the academic course. And you can start moving into it right after you finish the fourth journal in the review. Good luck.